All the signs were there, says forensic psychologist Dr. Leslie Dobson. In recent months, it was clear Nick, once clean-cut and well-dressed, had stopped taking care of himself.
He's more disheveled. He's distant. His eyes aren't focused. He's not really caring about how he looks. He just doesn't seem like he's a part of the family.
Reiner's adaptation of Stephen King's psychological thriller came on the heels of his blockbuster When Harry Met Sally.
It certainly was a departure from a genre standpoint, but to me, I felt very connected to that project as well, because the heart of that story is about a guy who is trapped by his own success.
If you're having to keep an eye on a drug addict, you're in big, big trouble already.
Her reason for being has been resurrected, and I think that's one of my favorite scenes because I didn't plan to do that.
Misery's alive! Oh, it's so romantic! Oh, this whole house is going to be filled with romance.
Losing freedom gets people's attention. It gets them motivated to get sober many times. You could have spent a couple years there as opposed to facing the death penalty or life in prison.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Where did Nick go on the night of the murders, and where was he the day after? And which way did he seem to be headed on the night after the murders? The short answer is that he was headed here to the Pierside Hotel at just after 4 a.m. The interesting thing is that Nick seemed to get from A to B to C using a combination of public transport and walking. This is Nick going walkabout a few minutes away from his home in Brentwood at about 11:10 p.m. on Saturday night, apparently prior to the murders. Jump ahead 5 hours? Well, why did the 32-year-old check in here close to when most people check out? I mean, who checks into a hotel 6 hours before checkout? And what was he doing for 5 hours? And where was he during those 5 hours? I'd also be interested to know if Nick checked out at 10 a.m., which is the typical checkout, or if he had some shut-eye, assuming he'd been up all night. I imagine if he checked in at 4, a pampered kid like him would have wanted to sleep until at least 11 or 12. If so, then he likely paid for 2 nights, even though he didn't even spend a single night there. Now, that's the sort of thing only the filthy rich can afford to do. Let me ask you, though, if Nick Reiner is innocent, why is he walking around in the middle of the night? Why does he seem to be on the run? And if you don't think he's on the run, well, later that day, he doesn't head back to Brentwood. Nuh-uh, he heads away. Have a look at Nick's movements on a map. Those movements are pretty decisive for an insane person, aren't they? He's pretty good at getting around for someone who is totally mentally ill, isn't he? And don't his movements suggest guilty knowledge? According to the LA Times, detectives got a break in the case when they determined that Reiner had checked into the Pierside Santa Monica Hotel sometime after 4 a.m. Sunday. But when they arrived in the afternoon, according to sources familiar with the investigation, Nick was gone. That's pretty incredible that detectives seemed to know Reiner was at the Pierside Hotel even before they got there. Were they able to put a trace on his credit card, I wonder? Incredibly, the moment the cops went into high gear looking for Nick, this was just 4 hours after the bodies were discovered. It took just 2 hours for Big Brother to close in on Nick. That's impressive and terrifying.
Wow. That's amazing and terrifying.
That's right.
According to the LA Times, authorities turned to digital geolocation to determine his whereabouts. Police began looking at Reiner's movements across Los Angeles around 7 p.m. Sunday using location data from his cell phone, along with other electronic devices, app footprints, and a network of cameras. Now have a look at this apparently incidental detail in the reporting of Nick's movements during the aftermath. The sources said Reiner moved quickly across the city during that period. Moving quickly through dense urban fabric requires prescience.
Prescience.
Alacrity.
Alacrity.
And awareness. Awareness is the state of knowing or perceiving something, encompassing knowledge of external events, internal thoughts, emotions, self-awareness, and understanding situations. According to the LA Times, Nick eventually ended up in the Exposition Park area near the University of Southern California and was arrested around 9:15 p.m. by LA police gang and narcotics detectives as part of a fugitive task force. Officers filmed the arrest, and that was also captured on gas station cameras. Now, are you ready for the number 7 clue we all missed? While it's entirely possible that Nick was headed to the downtown slums of LA for drugs, I think it's also possible he was trying to get a ticket and an exit out of Dodge. After all, where he was apprehended was less than 5 miles and under 10 minutes by car from Union Station. And if you look at the map, that's the direction he seemed to be heading in, and that's the number 7 clue we all missed. From Union Station, Nick could catch a bus, a train, or connect to LAX airport. He could head to Southern California cities like San Diego, or take a Greyhound bus as far away as he pleased, including Las Vegas. According to the LA Times, it's unclear whether Reiner used public transportation that day or why he traveled to South Los Angeles. But both the hotel and the area where he was arrested are easily accessible from the Metro Expo rail line. It's possible Nick traveled to Santa Monica so he could hide within the milling fabric of tourists, or he went that way and then did a switcheroo, thinking he could mislead or misdirect the cops. One wonders if he had the murder weapon, if he threw that into the sea. And if Nick did use public transport, if he did intend to get out of Dodge to make his final getaway, well, his lawyer's going to be faced with a very tall order convincing a jury that Nick was out of his mind, unaware what he was doing. Video footage suggests otherwise, but just the simple ABC of his movements after the murder suggests post-meditation, the mirror psychology to premeditation. If either of these are present, you can kiss the NGRI defense goodbye. The irony, I think, for Nick was that his dad's work made everyone else's dreams come true, and that was sort of his nightmare.
I've always wanted to be an actress, and if it wasn't for Rob, I don't think I would have ever been able to make that dream come true in such a dramatic and incredible way.
Do you see that in the process of giving others their happily ever after, Nick felt that his father perhaps wasn't giving him his? The success and happiness of others juxtaposed with Nick's perpetual failure to launch, to be someone, to be anyone, was his misery. In short, your happiness is my misery. And to a sick mind, that transaction works in reverse as well. My happiness is your misery. Let's put those words on screen. My happiness is your misery. And so if Nick committed these murders, I think the motive was a kind of psychological revenge. You ruined my life, now I'm going to ruin yours. Of course, the reality is Nick ruined Nick's life. The way Nick saw things and his maladaptive way of responding to life, that is Nick's responsibility, or more accurately, Nick's ongoing inability to respond to his world, Nick's response inability. Does that make sense?
When he met Michelle on that movie, the ending changed.
And the last shot was going to be just the two of them walking in opposite directions. And I met Michelle during the making of the movie. And, we hit it off, and I thought, oh, I get it. I get what happened. I get how this works. And so we changed it. We changed the ending.
Well, I'm not going to take it further than that, but look out for the number 8 clue we all missed following this episode. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.